Thanks for joining this webinar on business process automation. Today, building on Orchid's recent blog article, How You Can Build Back Better in 2021, we will explore how Orchid modules provide cost-effective and flexible methods to implement business process automation around customer processes. You are all in listen-only mode, so if you have any questions, please put them in the questions box. If 2020 proved to be the year of remote working, what can we expect from 2021? Our latest blog discusses how to set your business up for the new normal with Sage 300 and Orchid modules, implementing continuous accounting and business process automation. Many Orchid modules support business automation, and in this presentation, we focus on processes related to AR customers using EFT to streamline financial processes, return material authorizations to manage returns. An extender acts as the binding glue to build the automations in a flexible yet cost-effective manner. Remote Action Service and Workflow Anywhere to approve records without logging into Sage 300 Desktop support this automation in a flexible manner. So we'll show some examples of that. This is not a detailed training video, but it is a scenario-based webinar that gives you ideas as to what you can do with Sage 300 and Orchid modules. We will look at how to improve productivity when processing orders, returns, and managing customer details using RMA, Notes, Document Management Link, and Extender. Your alerts and notifications can be automated. Information is available when needed, improving team members' productivity and reducing frustration. You have a choice of method in how you're going to approve and how you receive your notification, and some mundane tasks such as filing and emailing documents can be automated. We will explore how RMA combined with Extender and Document Management Link support excellent customer service when processing returns. And this improved service delivery when processing returns is particularly important to build a stronger business and build customer trust. Increased transparency is an important component of building stronger business processes. Team members know what's going on, and emails are shared and visible within Sage 300 instead of having all the information required stuck into everyone's inbox. These automations help build resilience, meet auditors' requirements, and reimagine processes to serve customers better. Last year, we introduced case studies with Orca Oz Enterprises, an Unreal company selling office furniture and lights that has been using Sage 300 and Orchid add-ons for a long time to solve everyday business problems. We initially focused on how Orca Oz uses Sage 300 and Orchid modules to support remote work and approvals around vendor and AP processes. They were the first ones to get digitalized last year. This year, as we're all looking at adapting to the new normal and continue to build more resilient businesses, we're focusing on automation and approval processes around customers and account receivable processes. We will review 3 scenarios. The first one around automating customer processes when placing orders. Second one to improve transparency and customer experience in the returns process. And finally, we will look at enhanced productivity and transparency in financial transactions. In our first scenario, we focus on customer-facing employees using Sage 300 order entry and accounts receivable and how we can improve productivity. When a new order is received, Anne notices that the customer needs a credit limit increase to cover the new order. Request the credit limit increase using Sage 300 accounts receivable, which starts an Extender workflow. Steve will approve using the Remote Action Service, and when that is approved, an automatic notification is sent to Anne, who can then process the order, ship it, and invoice. When the order is entered, we will save away the customer purchase order email against that order and a customer. And because the order has a low margin, an order approval workflow will start. That order will then be approved using the Workflow Anywhere mobile app. And finally, when all the approvals have been entered in an efficient and productive manner, we're ready to ship an invoice. Make some final notes on that customer and order, and file away all the documents in Document Management Link, ready for the next step of the process and shared amongst team members. So for that first scenario, I'm now going to share Anne's video.
Anne receives this new email from Ronald Black ordering additional furniture for their new office. And she sees as an attachment, Ronald Black has sent Natalie's email which confirmed the pricing. And this pricing is correct. So Anne goes to enter that order. But notices that together with the new order of 13,000, Ronald Black will be over his credit limit. So before entering the order, she'll go and request a credit limit increase for Ronald Black. It's currently 40,000, but to cover the new order, she's going to make it 55,000. The automatic workflow kicks in to send everyone in the AR Approver group an email to approve the increase in the credit limit. Steve is not in the office, but does have access to his email, and he sees the request for the credit limit for Mr. Ronald Black to go from 40,000 to 55,000. He clicks on the Fleeting Forms remote action form and goes ahead and approves at 55,000. Process Scheduler runs periodically and calls the Polar action to bring down the remote approvals, and Anne receives an email saying that the credit limit for Mr. Ronald Black has been approved and it is now sitting at 55,000. She's now ready to enter the order. Anne enters the order, including the purchase order number, the description, and the reference. And then the line items as per Ronald Black's email. The fluorescent desk lamps, and we're going to ship from the Vancouver location. The fluorescent desk bulbs, and taking the pricing as per Natalie's email. The notebooks, the bulletin boards, and finally the flat screen. And when the order is posted, despite it being under the current credit limit, the order is put on hold. And this is because one or more of the lines is below the 10% margin that is required for orders to go ahead without approval. Anne is going to file away the email together with the order so other people can see the pricing that Natalie approved. And this can be done by dragging and dropping the email into the Document Management Link configured network folder. Both the original email and the attachment would be filed away for subsequent access. And then Anne clicks the Print and Email button, which will file the original order confirmation in Document Management Link for subsequent access, and also email it to Ronald Black so that he has the delivery date for these new items. And the PDF of the order confirmation is filed away for subsequent access. Natalie receives an email about this new order, number 139, that is waiting approval because it's below the minimum margin. and goes to her workflow app. And using the workflow app, she sees all the instances that she needs to approve or reject. And at the bottom, she can see this below minimum margin order for Mr. Ronald Black, the order number 139, and the total order value is 12,190. She's going to go ahead and approve that, which will take the order off hold. So the order is no longer on her workflow console. And Anne gets an email that order 139 has been approved, and she can go ahead now and ship an invoice. As the order has been taken off hold. Just before shipping and invoicing, though, Anne's going to record the note from Natalie's email that indicated she agreed that any returns that were done would be refunded, not sit as a credit against the customer account. And after shipping and invoicing, Anne files away the invoice form INV88 into the folder where all the customer invoices are filed, and also emails to Ronald Black, using email SmartLink to attach a file in document management link to a new email.
Thank you, Anne, for this first scenario. So we've looked at how Extender can help automate alerts and notifications and approvals, such as AR credit limit approval, a order approval, and some typical more mundane tasks, such as printing a document to PDF, in our case, the order confirmation and the order invoice. Remote Action Service and Workflow Anywhere give you options to approve records without logging to the Sage 300 desktop, and such flexibility will help increase productivity and employee satisfaction. With Remote Action Service, you have access to a one-time link by email that lets you approve in the cloud, and Workflow Anywhere is an app that runs on mobile devices and Windows app to approve on any device. We also touched on document management link and notes that support a paperless environment to improve productivity and make sure relevant information is available among team members when you need it. In our next example, we will look at how a range of Orchid modules help automate the returns process to increase transparency and improve customer service. So to manage the returns process, Sue uses return material authorization, which is the core of that returns process. As she's entering the return, she can review previous notes and documents available for that customer and for the invoice that is being returned, or the item, the invoice that is being credited. And but what we will do that we haven't really looked at closely before is use Extender to start a workflow that will let you automatically, when the return is approved, that will automatically create the credit note. In the meantime, before approving, Natalie will receive a report sent automatically by Process Scheduler daily with with an Info Explorer cube that actually includes some returns analysis. And she can then do some analysis by customer and items before approving the specific returns. So we'll see how Extender in conjunction with RMA provides an even more efficient returns processes. And to do this, we will go to our scenario number 2 video presented by Anne.
Sue receives an email from Ronald Black saying that he's going to return the 10 bulletin boards, and if she can issue the RMA number so he can return the goods with the RMA number. Sue notices that he has attached Natalie's original email, where Natalie has said he can be refunded for the bulletin boards if they don't fit in the new office. Sue goes to enter the RMA for Ronald Black, sees the note that was entered previously about the credit notes being refunded, and also sees all the recent invoices sent to Ronald Black. And Sue knows that the bulletin board is on the latest invoice, so double-clicking on invoice 88, just to confirm this is the correct invoice number, she sees that the bulletin boards are on this particular invoice. And using the RMA template code for returns, a miscellaneous charge code for a restocking fee has automatically been added to this RMA. Selecting the invoice number 88, all the original invoice lines can be defaulted to the RMA, and then we can delete the ones that we don't need. And then confirm the quantity being returned. And using the F9 detail screen, we're going to confirm that Ronald Black is returning 10, and we want to put these on a credit note. We don't want to put them on a replacement order. And we'll just change the miscellaneous charge code so that Ronald Black is not charged the restocking fee. Once the RMA is added, the return instruction can be printed and emailed through to Ronald Black. In order to generate the credit notes, the RMA needs to be completed. And there's an extender workflow active on RMAs because all RMAs need to be approved before the credit notes or associated documents can be created. So Sue sees this has been submitted for approval, and an email has been sent to those in the RMA Approver group. Natalie is a member of the Sales Manager group, and she has received the email about the return number 16 being entered and waiting for approval. She's also concerned about returns, and so has the 2 RMA cubes emailed to her every night, and she can double-click in her email to open up the analysis cube and have a look at the returns by customer or the returns by item. And if she filters on the bulletin board and drags down the customer to have a look and see, she can see that this return has been entered against Ronald Black for the 10 that he ordered, which I said he could be credited on. The advantage of having your analysis cubes emailed to you automatically saves you time and remembering to run them daily, and you can proactively look at them rather than remembering to have to run them each time. But Natalie has received this email that return 17 has been created for Ronald Black and is waiting for approval. As Natalie is in Sage 300, she can go to the Workflow console and viewing all the workflow instances that are assigned to her or a group she's in, she sees the work she needs to do. And here's the RMA approval submitted by Susan, and it's for $160 and waiting for her to approve. From here, Natalie can drill down either into the customer activity, the customer, the EFT details, or into the return. And here Natalie can have a look at the return, see that all the details are correct. She can see that it's for the bulletin board, which has been applied to invoice 88 correctly. She can see the note of her original email that was recorded by Anne. The quantity is 10. And looking at the F9 detail zoom, she can see it's been flagged to be put on the credit note, and the price is correct, and that the miscellaneous charge code, the restocking fee, is not going to be charged in this instance. So Natalie can approve from here. And when she goes ahead and completes that workflow instance or approves that workflow instance, the RMA is made complete and the credit notes are generated automatically. And in the workflow summary, we can drill into the detail log. We can see it was submitted by Susan and approved by Natalie. And in the values, we can see credit note 12 was issued. And we can also see that against the RMA. Credit note 12 has been issued, and we can drill down from here into credit note 12 and see it's just for the bulletin board. And Sue has received an email saying that return 17 has been approved and set to being completed, and that credit note 12 has been created from that return. So she knows now she's ready to go ahead and create her refund against this credit note.
Thank you, Anne, for presenting scenario 2. So Orchid Return Material Authorization module lets you manage return and enforce consistent workflow. We've looked at a brief example, tracking a return. You can also use it to manage small repairs from within Sage 300. And a robust return process helps you reduce number of errors, boost service delivery, and generally encourage repeat business, even though the return process is not necessarily, it's not what you want to increase, but you want to make sure that the customer experience is great during those returns. And the RMA module itself includes some workflow configuration, but when you use it in conjunction with Extender Workflow, Notes, and Document Management Link, you can build an even stronger process where your reminders and notifications are automated. You can enforce some additional business rule validations customized to your business process. And you also have the option to approve remotely using Remote Action Service or the Workflow Anywhere app. And Process Scheduler in conjunction with Info Explorer helps you receive some analysis on returns and on other sales-related processes that we will explore it a little bit more in the next, towards the end of this presentation. In our final example, we will look at how to improve visibility and efficiency when the finance team processes payments and refunds using EFT and Extender. The user who sets up the customer bank details, so in this case Sue, we've never processed a refund for Mr. Ronald Black, so the first thing we're going to have to do is set him up as a customer in EFT and enter the bank details. Because we're enforcing separation of duty, when Sue enters the bank details, the customer will not be active. You won't be able to use it in EFT. And what we're doing is using EFT in conjunction with extender workflow so that Steve receives a notification whenever a customer is entered in EFT, and he can then approve that customer, and Sue will receive a notification saying the customer has been made active and she can process the refund. So this makes that process even simpler and quicker than just with additional logging than just using EFT. The refund can then be entered and processed. And when we try to create the EFT file for that refund, a workflow is started. So the batch itself has been, the refund batch itself has been approved or has been posted already. But what we want to do is control at what point we're going to create that EFT file. So it's more an approval for cash flow purposes than an approval of the actual batch in stage 300. So that's another point where we can trigger the approval using extender and EFT. So we're going to post the batch on the console, but we could also post it, or not post it, sorry, we could approve the refund batch on the extended workflow console in our example, but we could also use it on the Workflow Anywhere app or using remote action. And the final step of our refund process is to create the EFT file for that refund batch, send it to the bank, and when that's been successful, we can email the advice to the customer. So our final scenario will be a 4-minute video, scenario 3.
Sue receives the email that return number 17 has been approved. The credit note 12 was created when return 17 was approved by Natalie. And she also has the email from Ronald Black with the bank account details for the EFT refund. So in Sage 300, under EFT customers, Sue goes to create a new record for customer 1200, fills in the details, and when she adds the record, she gets a message that a workflow instance has been started because the EFT details need to be approved before they can be used in a refund. Steve receives the email that Mr. Ronald Black's EFT details need approval. And in Sage 300, when he goes to the workflow console to view those tasks assigned to him or a group he's in, he sees the EFT customer status change submitted by Susan for customer 1200. Steve's going to approve that. And in the workflow summary, you can see that Susan started the workflow for the approval of the EFT details and Steve approved them. And back in EFT, for customer 1200, the account is now active, so Sue can use these details in an EFT file. Sue receives an email that Ronald Black's bank account details has been approved and therefore the refund has been approved. So she's going to go ahead and process the refund. Because the original invoice from Ronald Black was paid, when the credit note was applied to the invoice, we end up with an unapplied cash portion of the $170. And this is what Sue will use to create the refund. And is going to go ahead and post this. and can now go to EFT transactions and refund Ronald Black. But Extender has been configured to require approval for all EFT files too. Accordingly, the group that can approve EFT files has been emailed. On Steve's workflow console, he sees the EFT refund approval is being sought and goes ahead and approves that. From a cash flow perspective, he's approving that that refund can happen now. Sue receives the email that the AR refund batch is now approved for creating the EFT file and can go ahead and create the EFT file. Upload that file to the bank and send Ronald Black a refund remittance advice. And Ronald Black receives the remittance advice and makes a note to check with the bank the next day.
Thank you, Anne, for that final scenario. So in this final example, we looked at how to improve visibility and efficiency when the finance team processes refunds using EFT and Extender. The separation of duties supported by Extender notifications and approvals was applied to AR customers in our example, but the same approach can be applied to EFT vendors. So when you first, as part of standard EFT functionality, when you first create a new EFT vendor or a new EFT customer to enter their bank details, the status can be set to entered, and a separate user needs to approve to make it active. So in our scenario here, to make the process simpler and quicker, we use Extender to notify the approvers that a vendor is ready or customer is ready to be made active. We can also use Extender to approve all payment batches before the file is created and sent to the bank. So Extender provides that flexibility in how you approve. We did it in our example using the Sage 300 desktop in the Workflow console, but you can also use the Workflow Anywhere app on a mobile phone or on a Windows app device on your Windows machine. Or you can also use the Remote Action Service to approve without logging into Sage 300 from a one-time email link. So the approvals can help improve your compliance while keeping the organization nimble and responsive. So before we move on to the next scenario, I think we'll answer the couple of questions in relation to this process. What would have happened if Create EFT process was attempted prior to approval? Well, in that scenario, the way we've configured it is when you try creating the EFT file, so you're actually in EFT, when you try to call that process, when you're on that EFT screen, it checks whether that batch has been approved for that for the Create EFT file process. So at that point, if it's already been approved, it lets you create the file. If it's not been approved, it starts the workflow and warns you that you can't create the file now because it hasn't been approved. And if you try it again while there is a pending approval, then you will get a message saying there is a pending approval. Somebody from the EFT file approver group needs to approve before you can create the file. So this particular script is available on our website and is also part of the Orchid Extender workflow sample data in our version 2021 sample data. Would have been good to see the messages associated with the unapproved process. Yes, we can we can actually probably slow down that presentation. There is actually, I think, a quick tip video that focuses on that particular approval process on our website. So we'll send you that link separately. You will see that approval process around the Create EFT file in more detail, where we look at different examples, different ways of using that particular script. So if you're interested in this particular approval process, I suggest you have a look at that video on our website. So to summarize, before we move on to some other examples using Process Scheduler, we have demonstrated 3 scenarios around customer processes using Sage 300 and various Orchid modules. Extender and Remote Action Service and Workflow Anywhere to approve records without logging into the Sage 300 desktop are common elements to support this automation in a flexible manner and help improve productivity. So our alerts, notifications, and approvals are automated. We have a choice of method on how to approve, and we can automate some tasks such as filing and emailing documents. We've applied this to Sage 300 core modules such as accounts receivable, order entry. We have also applied it to RMA to help manage return in an even more flexible and compliant manner. And then applying that to using Extender in conjunction with EFT processing to send alerts and configuring approvals help streamline that financial process, make it even more compliant. Now, automation is not an end in itself. It's really designed to help improve customer service while improving productivity and ensuring compliance and satisfying your auditor's requirements. So everything that we have shown, these building blocks of Extender, all includes detailed logging that helps satisfy auditors' requirements and build your more resilient process. A new calendar year is often a good opportunity to set up new objectives for the business and for its systems. So the scenarios we have reviewed today hopefully give you some ideas as to what improvements you can implement. You can choose the pace of these changes. They're all building blocks. You can start with one process, one improvement, continue with the next setup to keep making your team members' life easier, reduce frustration with some of the more mundane processing tasks or with having to look for information, the same information several times in your emails when it could be at your fingertips within Sage 300's desktop while you're processing your transactions. For details of any of the products or solutions that we've presented today, you can refer to the Orchid website. The link to today's webinar will be sent directly to you. If you've registered for the webinar, it will also be made available on the website. So we're going to open up for some more questions, whatever questions you have relating to what we showed today or other things that you want to ask us. While you're thinking of your questions, I will hand over the presentation to Anne, who will show us 2 main things: how we can use Process Scheduler to automate some of the Sage 300 tasks around customer, and also how we can easily configure and tweak some of the example workflows that we looked at today as your business process evolves.
Yeah, sorry about that. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for attending this session. So the first thing I'm going to show you is Process Scheduler. And we saw that Natalie received 2 RMA cubes overnight. And it's her choice that she gets these 2 cubes every day so she can keep an eye on returns and trends in the returns, both from a customer and an item point of view. And that is done using Process Scheduler, this RMA schedule, which is scheduled every night, which refreshes this cube and emails to these 2 email addresses. And the second step refreshes this cube and emails to these 2 email addresses. And using Process Scheduler, you can, and in conjunction with other Sage 300 modules, you can automate many tasks. For example, if you use our report runner, this enables you to schedule in multiple companies the crystal reports that users had set up
to schedule. So using Report Runner, you have a menu of reports, your own Crystal reports or Sage 300 Crystal reports, and then you set the parameters the way you want those reports to run. And Process Scheduler can schedule those to run every day or every hour if you need to. And each report can have its own schedule. So some might be weekly, some might be monthly, some might be daily or hourly reports. And just like we can run Crystal reports, we can also run financial reports. So these are FR reports, which are set up in Sage 300 GL FR. So it's those Excel spreadsheets with the FR add-in, and these can be scheduled to run as well. And you do this by report group. So you could have 3 or 4 or 5 or as many reports as you want within a report group. So per company, you can run report groups, and they can either just be saved or emailed through to whoever needs them. So have a look at our website for all the different tasks that you can do using Process Scheduler. There are 3 levels, level 1, 2, 3, and depending which type of functions you want to do, you need the appropriate level. But you can run day ends, do dumps, post batches. If you're using GL consolidations, imports and exports for GL consolidations, and also opening financial periods per module, per company. The other thing I was going to show you is, and now I'm just flicking into my workflow company, and I'm going to show you that RMA template, not to go through the RMA workflow template in a huge amount of depth, but just show you the approval process. So these are our steps, and within each step you have multiple actions. And when Natalie clicked on the approve action, what it did was it asked, well, I think I skipped the parameters, but it came through and set the workflow comment based on the parameters had we asked them. It sets the RMA to be complete. So your workflows can update values in Sage 300 records. So in this case, it's making the RMA complete. The other examples we saw today was making the EFT customer record active and taking the Sage 300 sales order off hold. So these sorts of, and setting the customer's credit limit to 55,000. So those were all done by the workflow itself. And the next step of the workflow is to run this action, create OE form from RMA. So this this is an action which is included in workflow, which allows you to generate order entry or purchase order forms. So documents. So order entry would be the credit notes that can result from an RMA, or the OE replacement sales order that can result from an RMA, and the PO document is the PO return back to the vendor. And this particular action has 3 parameters. The first is the name of the variable to store the returned document number from the RMA process. So that's why we saw in the history that it was credit note 12 that was created. An error, so a variable to store the error message if something had gone wrong in that process, if for some reason it couldn't create the credit note. And then it's got a parameter 1, 2, or 3. 1 is to create credit notes, 2 is to create replacement orders, 3 is to create purchase returns. So had I wanted my workflow to create replacement orders as well as returns, PO returns, if there had been, any of the items were due for that, then I would have called this action 3 times. First time passing in a 1 for the credit notes, 2 for the sales orders, 3 for the purchase returns. So there's no, this is parameterization really. It's just, copying our template and inserting a few lines. There's no coding needed to do extra things. It's just configuration that's needed. The other example I was going to show you is the OE order margin approval workflow that kicked in when Sue created the order Anne created the order for the 5 items for Ronald Black. And the reason, because the order was, adding the order value to the current amount of outstanding orders and the balance of the customer didn't take them over the credit limit. The reason the order was put on hold was in the action start a new order, this a custom action to check the sales margin, which skims through all the lines and checks the sales margin if it's below this variable value, which is configured here in the workflow. So it was checking for 10%. So if you wanted to use this exact template, but just check for a margin that's 15% or 5%, all you need to do is change the parameter here. And this would then work in your scenario. So it's checking all the lines. If the margin is less than this parameter value, then it puts the order on hold and sends the appropriate emails that is needed. And that on hold flag is monitored then by this workflow template. So if anyone else tries to go outside the workflow process and take that order off hold, they're going to get a message saying that that there's a workflow instance in progress over this sales order, and it needs to be approved through the console. Similar to the question Leroy had about the create EFT files. So once the workflow instance has started, if the create EFT file was clicked a second time, Sue would have got the message saying, workflow instance is in progress for this particular batch, a refund batch. So you need to approve that first before an EFT file could be created. The other piece of configuration I wanted to show you, I'll stay in that workflow template, or maybe have a look at the AR credit limit one, which is the other one that we started off with. You'll notice, if I highlight it for you, that the assign user is the action to assign the workflow to a particular user. And you'll notice we're using a user group name as opposed to an individual user. So you can both assign the workflow or send emails to individual usernames, or you can do your design of your workflows to use group names. So here you can see that we're using the finance manager group or the AR approver group, depending on the value of the credit limit change, who's going to be assigned this particular workflow instance. And if you use group names like this, finance manager and AR approver, then you configure your workflow groups to have the appropriate users. Oh, sorry, that's my workflow colors. Workflow groups. So if we look at the finance manager group, we can see that admin, the user demo, Natalie and Steve are in it. So if Steve goes away, so we temporarily want to put Anne in this group, we put Anne's name in here, then Anne will receive any workflow instances or emails which are being sent to the finance manager group for the duration when she's in this group. And then when Steve gets back, you can just take Anne's name out of that. So designing your templates using group names, even if there's only one person in the group, for the majority of the time, it's just a lot more flexible when you do need to do changes of users. You don't need to go through your workflow template. You just need to make sure your list of users is good. I think the other one that it was using is the AR approver group, who pretty much the same users, but subtly different. Anne is in here instead of Natalie. Okay, those are the three things that I wanted to run through. Are there any other questions?
Just one question. Can Process Scheduler be used to alert user every 3 months to review IC prices? So the short answer is yes.
Yes, you could use Process Scheduler to, depends how you want to alert them to review that. It might be an extender script, because you might want to be sending them specific. Oh, that reminds me, I didn't talk about one of the Process Scheduler tasks. So let me just go there. So What Process Scheduler is also able to do is run extender scripts. So in my daily checks schedule, it's running 2 actions. The first action runs an extender script, which is this check IC items which are less than a minimum quantity. And the second action is running a AR customer aging check on all customers and sending an email to the sales rep if the customer is either overdue or is over their credit limit. And we can see examples of that email here. So here, for example, customer 9992, who is not over their credit limit because the outstanding balance is 8,000 something and the credit limit is 20,000, but there are transactions which are overdue in the 90-day bucket. So that's an example of an email that was sent from that running that particular script, and which is different to this customer, I think, which is the credit limit is 3,100 and they've got 37,000 outstanding. So it's running the aging for every customer and sending an email for each customer that's either overdue or over their credit limit. And that sample script's on our website. So here's another example. The other script I showed you, so it checks every item. If it's less than the minimum reorder quantity for that location, then it adds the item and the location to this email. And using email SmartLink, you can link back to that record, and it gets sent to the warehouse manager. So if your alert was the result of some extender script running, yes, you could do it by sending an extender script, or you might want to be sending a report of those price lists that need checking, or it might even be an extender script looking for those customers whose price list needs checking. So depending what type of alert that you're trying to send to somebody, if it's the result of an extender script running, then yes, Process Scheduler can schedule the extender script. It might be just a crystal report, so Process Scheduler can send that crystal report. Or you need to be sending something. It can't just Process Scheduler can't just send an email.
Actually, Process Scheduler can.
Process Scheduler can just send an email. Thank you, Natalie. What action would it run?
Send email.
Oh, true. There we go. So
it's not used very often.
Not used at all, as far as I know. But
it's not.
Okay,
we don't get support questions on this one.
So yes, you could just use Process Scheduler to schedule a send email action and just set that one up to run every 3 months.
But you could also the schedule could also run an extender script that starts a workflow assigned to somebody. So you'd actually have a record in the workflow console that the price list needs to be reviewed. And when it's actually done, you could mark that alert, that task as complete. So there are different options there depending on what your business process is and what you're actually trying to achieve. So
any other questions there, Natalie?
Not that I can see. So thank you for your time. Reminder that you will receive the recording to the webinar in the next couple of days, and that there's a lot of additional information on our website, and you can also obviously contact us, support@orchid.systems. I think most of you are familiar with that email address. So
Thank you very much for your time.
We'll speak to you next month, and send us ideas that you want covered in the next webinars. We will take them on board and incorporate them as much as we can.
Thanks for your time, and look forward to speaking to you next month. Bye.